So the starting lineup is, I agree with Aaron, and he said it really good right here. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and Clint Capella. I think we can move on that John Collins is not being traded. Also, what are your thoughts of DeJounte Murray as a shooting guard? Do you think we'll see a different style of player? Because last year he was averaging 18 and 7 and 7.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious to see how DeJounte Murray handles this upcoming season. Their offense will be nice, so I don't think he'll miss a step. But what did he average last year? Like 25, 8 and 8. I mean,
21, 8 and 9.
21, 8 and 9. It's just crazy. I actually don't think we'll see a statistical drop off.
All right, so listen to this. After the All-Star break, for the last 16 games of the season, he averaged 25, 8.8, and 8.2. So I could see him averaging 25. I just think those assists will fall down to 5, and Trae Young will be the main. Like, I think DeJounte averages closer to 5 and 7 assists, while Trae Young averages like 25 and 10. But with DeJounte Murray, it will allow Trae Young to play more off-ball. You know, Steph Curry, how Steph Curry sometimes runs around and gets in catch and shoot area like scenarios. So I could see Trae Young having a scoring, like the best score, like literally averaging like 33 points a game, because he'll have like 18, 21 points off of like 6 to 7 3-pointers he'll make a night.
Yeah. Trae.
Also, before you say anything, if you're enjoying the show, drop a subscribe on the channel. You know, we're live daily, and be a friend and tell a friend. Shout out to all like 10 plus people watching.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, we have 14 people watching.
14 people are watching this?
We just fell to 11 as I said that, but
we've been
But what were you gonna say? I was just wanting to get that out of the way because we're hovering at 11 and 12 right now.
I'm curious. I don't think actually DeJounte's stats will drop. I don't think Trae's stats will drop. I think they'll be a really good regular season team. And I think a lot of this is going to come down to DeAndre Hunter and John Collins, really. I mean,
well,
my thoughts on John Collins.
I think this team needs to play their best players as much as possible. Their first 5 guys are great. Then you got to play Odeka and Bogdan, okay? Right there, you already have a 7-man rotation that's good, okay? You only need 1 or 2 more players. So if you're playing Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, Clint Capella, Onyeka Okongwu, Bogdan, that's a great 7-man rotation. You throw in probably 8th guy off the bench, Justin Holiday. A 9th guy off the bench is either Aaron Holiday or Mo Harkless, in my opinion. Then everybody else, in the name of Trent Forrest, Adrian Griffin, aka AJ Griffin, Sean D. Brown, Jalen Johnson, Tyrese Martin, and Frank Kaminsky, you're not going to see them play much. I think they need to go 8 to 9 guys in their rotation, mainly play 7 guys. And when you look at this team, 7 guys deep. Bogdan is their 6th man. Onyeka Okongwu is their defensive menace off the bench, who will eventually replace Clint Capella, hopefully by next offseason. John Collins need to be utilized correctly, because I love John Collins, and I think John Collins gets criminally misutilized. This John Collins and DeAndre Hunter and DeJounte Murray need to be used as 3 defensive, like, Swiss Army knives, okay? You got DeJounte Murray attacking the best perimeter offensive player. You got John Collins pestering inside, who literally John Collins can switch and guard anybody. And same thing with DeAndre Hunter, except Hunter can't take centers like Collins can. Collins can guard guards and centers. And I think they need to use Collins, DeJounte Murray, and DeAndre Hunter to have a top 10 defense. That's what this team needs to do. They need to play defense, and they have 3 guys in Murray, Hunter, and Collins who are all defensive team member capable. And I think they need to really hedge and trap ball handlers at the perimeter, utilize Capella as the rim protector, then use Collins, Hunter, and Murray as your 3 perimeter defenders who are just pestering ball handlers to either get them to get sucked in by Capella and get Capella to block their shot, or force them to take a bad 3-point shot and drain the shot clock. Also, Do you see this?
No.
Welcome to Wrexham. They gave Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, you know, the guy from Mac from Always Sunny. They bought the oldest soccer team in America, and I guess they gave them a TV show.
They bought the oldest team in soccer? Like, really?
Yeah, in England.
What does that say? Ryan? Why did they spell the name wrong?
Because the club is called
Wrexham.
It's called Wrexham. So they bought the club called Wrexham AFC back in 2020, and now I'm gonna watch this. It's a docu. So no, it comes out next week, and it's about how they learn. You remember? It's inspired. Did you ever watch Sutherland Till I Die?
Yeah.
And it's inspired by that, and it's during and since the tech takeover, and it's basically them learning how to run a soccer team, and since they've taken over the soccer team, the team has won games.
Would hope. I'll have to figure out more because I'm so confused. But I love Rob McElhenney's name.
So back to the Hawks. I want to answer this question. So easy MB. So DeJounte Murray, you have to understand is DeJounte Murray fell in the draft. This is according to so DeJounte Murray was supposed to be a lottery pick, and DeJounte Murray was supposedly a juvenile delinquent when he was a very young teen, and he left that behind and became a basketball player. But supposedly his past followed him, and he's always kind of had a hothead attitude. And from what I've heard from Spurs fans, he kind of wasn't very much Spurs way, and this is something we talked about on this show. And I think DeJounte, like Aaron just said, he has a chip on his shoulder, but it's a lot bigger. It's kind of like, you know how Baker Mayfield comes off cocky? I think DeJounte Murray comes off the same way, but more egotistical. And I think now that he's in Atlanta, you have to understand how big of a different TV market. I think Atlanta is like the 5th or 6th biggest TV market in America, while San Antonio is probably closer to 30. So you have to understand there are 10 times the amount of eyes on DeJounte Murray now than there used to be in San Antonio. So I believe this is probably the stuff that Spurs fans were saying. He isn't very Spurs way, because I never paid attention to DeJounte Murray's social media or what he was doing. But supposedly this is somewhat of a regular occurrence for Spurs fans, what he's done. It's just now more noticeable because he's on the Atlanta Hawks, which is a very bigger media team, like media presence. But to go back, yeah. Do you agree with this with Aaron? Because this was a team that's already top 15, top 10 offensively on paper, literally last year. If this team is top 10, even top 15 defensively, do you agree that they're a top 5 seed in the conference?
Yeah, I think they'll be top 5 with or without it. I think they'll be a top 15 defense. You have enough there, DJ, Hunter, Capella. My issue really comes down to John Collins. Unfortunately, Aaron, here's what I think is going to happen to the Atlanta Hawks. I think you're going to get off to a phenomenal start, and I think you're going to run the Eastern Conference for the first half of the season. And then I think players like John Collins are going to start to become more liabilities, and Clint Capella.
Why?
Because John Collins sucks at basketball. So when people realize John Collins sucks, and they give him the ball more and they attack him more, and he's not going to know what to do because he needs Trae Young to lob it up for him to score every bucket.
He now has 2 guys to create for him.
He needs Capella there to help cover up his D. I think that Atlanta is going to have a shaky second half, but not enough to lose home field, not enough to cause panic or anything like that. But I think they'll go into the playoffs as a 2 or 3 seed, and I think they'll probably get past first round, maybe even make the Eastern Conference Finals, and then I think the Eastern Conference Finals is their ceiling. But I could see them getting to. If I had to make a prediction, I think they'll lose in the second round to a Milwaukee. But it could go vice versa. I think they're going to need a little bit more on the bench. I like Aaron Holiday. I like Justin Holiday. but let's be real. Bogdanovich is nice for sure defensively. Mo Harkless, come on, let's be real. Okagwu, great player. AJ Griffin, pretty hopeful for him, but he's still risky. Jalen Johnson's a little too young. And, imagine this team had a Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris gives way too much disrespect. If they have Tobias Harris, I think.
See, this is where I think, I think their Tobias Harris is Bogdan, because Tobias Harris would just be their sick man. Either way, John Collins, you're disrespecting. I think John Collins is way better than Tobias Harris. John Collins 2 seasons ago was averaging 21.6. Last year was averaging 17.6. People forget this past season. Dude, this past season, really in the past 3 years, John Collins hasn't been healthy. He's played what? He could have played a potentially 82 this year, 72 the year before, and I don't even know what you could have played in 2019. But he hasn't played a full season basically his whole entire career. But this guy has become a phenomenal three-point shooter after never attempting a three-point shot at Wake Forest. John Collins, again, I've said this before after a conversation with Kevin Schoenhardt where he convinced me that if John Collins played in Kevin Garnett era, John Collins would be, a max contract player, a guy that would be heralded. Yes, I know he's not the best at creating his own shot, but he's a guy that could play, honestly, power forward, center. He's versatile enough to he's probably one of the most athletic power forwards in the entire goddamn league. He's a guy who averages, who can average. We need him to average 7 rebounds a night and a block a game and a steal a game. We need him to be the team Swiss Army knife. Okay. I need DeAndre Hunter to be the 3-and-D guy. We need John Collins to be that Swiss Army knife who does a little bit of everything, to be the Grant Williams, the Robert Williams of this team. Okay. To be the, if you want to compare it to, I guess, another team, I don't even know. Kind of like combined, John Collins has the possibility of being a better shooter than Anthony Davis while having the defensive impact of Bam Adebayo. You're against me? You're against me, aren't you?
Yeah. I really like what Easy's preaching to the choir here.
Oh, you're over here saying that he despite being more athletic, that I agree that he does. He has this past season, I think people have hated him. Yeah, look, he scores way better than Bam. Okay, yes, you got a shot create. Okay, I agree that he's like Aaron Gordon, that he has no shot creation. Okay, I think John Collins is a better Aaron Gordon, and this team needs to use him how Aaron Gordon is utilized for the Denver Nuggets. Sup, Charlie? And I think John Collins can be just as good as a defender as Bam Adebayo, being able to guard similar to Bam Adebayo and Evan Mobley, where they can switch onto guards. John Collins needs to be utilized how Aaron Gordon is utilized on the Denver Nuggets, where you create for him, you put him in situations where he's slashing to the basket, lob threat, and you also get him to be a catch and shoot guy in the corner or at the top of the key, and you tell him to never stop moving on offense, always be in motion, be setting picks, literally be the Swiss Army knife for this team. I don't know if you agree with this, if this is the right way, but if you look at Aaron Gordon's stats, he had a career year this past year, averaging 15 points a night, 33.5% from 3, which isn't good compared to John Collins, who's like a 39% 3-point shooter, 52% from the field, 6 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and basically 0.6 steals and 0.6 blocks. But I think if you look at it, I think the way Aaron Gordon is used is how John Collins should be used. And
yes, but if I have Aaron Gordon, I save $5-6 million annually, 20 to 30 over the course of a contract, and I get significantly better defense and a guy who can still shoot. I think that
John Collins is a better shooter than Aaron Gordon.
I think that John Collins is. I think if he didn't have Trae Young to come out of his career, he'd be not worthless, but I think he'd be on a more Aaron Gordon contract. I think John Collins can, cool. He can shoot 35% from downtown. Congratulations. He needs it on a spoon. And
John
My issue is long term. Like John Collins is getting 25 mil for the next 4 years to get spoon fed points and plays subpar defense. I just think there's better options out there. I'd rather get rid of Clint Capella, get like Julius Randle, get like Miles Turner over. Like I'd do a complete rehaul of their big men, and I know no Hawks fan wants to hear that, and I know you don't want to hear that either. I'm very anti John Collins. I don't think he can come through for him when he needs him to come through. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I just haven't fallen in love with John Collins.
Hey, look, so I think John Collins is a result of you remember when Tristan Thompson got what? 5
TT?
years? Yeah, we remember when he got that after they won the championship and Rich Paul got him that like 5-year, $84 million contract, which was like an overpay for Yeah, LeBron got him paid. I think the same thing happened with John Collins. I think John Collins should be paid in between what he's paid now and what Aaron Gordon is. He should be paid closer to like 18 or 20, but because they made it to the Eastern Conference Final, and this is why I think they traded Kevin, and this is why they traded Kevin Huerter, in my opinion. They realized, shit, we gave Kevin Huerter a bad contract, we overpaid him, and like we got to move him. So that's what they did. They realized, fuck, we overpaid Kevin Huerter. You're a great player, but you should be getting paid more like Luke Kennard. And then with John Collins, they're like, we did overpay you, but it's not by much, but it is an overpay where like, that's why we saw all these trade rumors. They're like, is there room for growth in John Collins? Which I do believe, there is room. He has a 7-foot wingspan. He's only 24 years old. And like, he's literally progressed very well every single season. But I agree with the fact that John Collins, yes, I get what you're saying. Like if they could get, trade John Collins for Aaron Gordon and, hypothetically somebody else on that roster, that would be awesome. They would probably do that because they would be replacing John Collins with a very similar player who's, does the same things he does. But I think there's still room to grow for for John Collins. I think John Collins this season will be the make or break year for John, as I think John Collins needs to, the Miles Turner option isn't bad. I don't mind that. If you see it somehow to get Miles Turner and like TJ McConnell for John Collins, that's awesome. But I think, again, like John Collins, this is a make or break year. He needs to be utilized as, like I said before, catch and shoot threes at the top of the key or in the corner, have him constantly moving on offense, setting screens, slashing towards the basket. And I think, again, this is the last year for John Collins. I could see John Collins traded at the deadline, but I think they see John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, DeJounte Murray and Onyeka Okongwu, those 4 guys being their only way to getting to a top 15 defense, which is needed.
Yeah, we'll see. I just think it's going to come down to both. I think DeAndre is just as much of a critical log in the chain as John Collins. I think that DeAndre Hunter scored like 21 in the playoffs this year. I think he's the sleeper. I think he's a guy who could turn into a Mikal Bridges.
Who, DeAndre Hunter?
And it'll look as if it appeared out of thin air, but he's got to stay healthy.
Well, we've talked about this before. DeAndre Hunter was averaging 17 before he broke his wrist or something like that. He had to get wrist surgery. And
John Collins for Ben Simmons is blasphemous and disrespectful to Ben Simmons.
So in 18 games before he injured his wrist in the year that they went to the conference finals, in 18 games, DeAndre Hunter was shooting almost 5 3-pointers a game at 36.6%, 17.2 points, 1 steal night, half a block, 2.2 assists, 5.4 rebounds, and 51.4% from the field in 32 minutes a night. If we can see that DeAndre Hunter again, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
For a whole season.
For a whole season, yeah. That he did that for 18 games, then he hurt his wrist, and we've never seen that version of DeAndre Hunter ever again. But